Dwayne Seymour. And I think my comment before my question is that we appreciate really all the motions those two great gentlemen they do. And I think if we look at the pension motion Mr. Ellio brought, it's always save our money, our pension money, which is going to United States and other countries. Also jobs for Caymanians. It's a very interesting thing. I think it's important to save those certain jobs for Caymanians, such as high top jobs in this country to be Caymanized. Also, I hope this in the future extend to another step, which is Caymanize all the government workers to be only Caymanians. I think this is the right direction. And in the further future, I think we need to Caymanize the police forces. And I think the motion recently Mr. Ellio brought about the complaint commissioner to try investigate the police is very, very important motion, which is because always the police over the laws and they're not investigated by any entity in the Cayman Island. The other thing I want to thank Mr. Dwayne Seymour for the public park him and Mr. Mark Scotland done in spot in Newlands. It's a beautiful place where they brought that public park to our area. The kids will enjoy and the families, and there is a beautiful set of a place where families could hang out. And I think that is a very wonderful project Mr. Seymour and Mr. Scotland done in the area where our area. I would like publicly to thank them in behalf of a lot of people ask me to do that. And also I want to ask Mr. Dwayne Seymour about those small shops he doing in the public beach in Bodden Town. What is the idea was, and is that could be extended in other areas? My other question, Mr. Ellio Solomon was speaking about his motion jobs for Cayman, is if he just enlighten us furthermore about what is he thinking those certain jobs and when this will be to come to full law, enforced law in this country. I would like to thank the two gentlemen for their hard work for Cayman, and God bless the Cayman Island and the people of this country. And thank you, Ms. Donna, for this great and wonderful program.
All right. Thank you, caller. Thank you for calling Talk with the Nation, and we hope you'll do so again in the future, and, of course, encourage your friends and families to do the same. So the caller there, gentlemen, addressed a number of things. First, kudos off to, both of you for the many motions and so forth. He talked about the shops at the Bodden Town Beach. That's one that I'm not too familiar with, so, Mr. Seymour, you can address that one if you'd like. And I think the caller wanted to find out whether this could be extended to other areas.
Well, Donna, thank the caller for his words of encouragement. And the Cowood Beach in itself is a project in development, and some interesting things and exciting things has gone on that actual property. And not only the heritage huts that were built there, and the intended purpose is to try to bring a focal point to the district, where one can go out and get local foods and one can sell their crochets and straw baskets and if someone wanted to sell local fish there, or if someone wanted to rent umbrellas and kayaks on the beach and so forth, trying to create some commerce in the district,
right? And
that's the intended purpose, and it was intentionally thought when we were building it. I said, you know what, I want a boardwalk.
Okay.
I wanted a boardwalk effect so that we could have that effect there, and the tourists would love it. One day we hope to see buses coming there on schedule.
Right.
And stopping there and spending some time there on the beach, renting umbrellas, kayaks, going out for a little fishing trip, and buying some good old fashioned Caymanian artwork and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is it. We got to try to liven up Bordentown. And it was one step at a time.
Right. So outside of Bordentown, though, I think the caller wanted to find out, even myself, I want to find out whether this might be something that interests you to spearhead in other areas once that has been fully established.
Definitely, Donna. That is a good question, and I think that every district should have a cultured area where you go and you can buy certain things that depicts the Cayman Islands or that district in itself. And for a long time, we've never heard politicians talking about trying to get that untapped dollar out of your pocket. And a lot of times people have money in their pockets, but they have nothing that they want to spend it on. And a lot of times this is tourists also. They want to spend their money, but they don't see anything they want to spend it on.
Right.
So we need to find creative ways, and this is one of the
I agree.
The dimensions that I add to the UDP team in terms of thinking outside the box, and I definitely think there's greater opportunities in this island. Tourists definitely want an island effect. They want to see more road stops along the way, and I think we need to create this atmosphere that we don't get away from being an island.
I agree with you. I like stopping to get some coconut water and some mangoes on the
fresh
side
fruit,
of the... Oh, absolutely.
some juices.
Let me
blended.
Donna, if I can, like to supplement what my colleague's saying in terms of the vendors. During Finance Committee, one of the things I actually raised with the minister responsible is about doing what is necessary to try to bring the farmers market directly into downtown Georgetown on specific days, because I think locals would want to be able to get access to fruits and vegetables, and I think it's a good thing for the tourists as well.
Sure.
And I know there's a lot of persons in all of the districts, but definitely Georgetown. In fact, I've seen some of them come from as far as North Side and East End. But even the vendors in Georgetown who may want to sell some of their foods, we have some of our middle-aged and elder persons who do some excellent cooking, whether it's the tarts, whether it's the cassava cakes, whether it's the turtle or dish or whatever, or the rundown you were just chatting about. I don't see any reasons why you can't make that sort of a public affair one day out of the week. And in terms of the actual beach vending, I can say to you that one of the things that the United Democratic Party government had intended in terms of the FCIA agreement with respect to the public beach closure is an issue that not only you get additional parking, additional 6 acres, but there was a tremendous degree of actual vending shops that Caymanians will be able to have to be able to sell their products as well when all of the buses pull up and the tourists come and they want to sell their products. And I think a lot of those things are things that the opposition doesn't mention when they're giving their criticisms.
Okay.
But I think it is worth it to mention.
Well, it's going to be great for business and entrepreneurship. I'm going to stick a pin there, though. We do have another caller, Mr. Seymour. Caller, thank you for calling Talk with the Nation. Do you have a question or comment for our guests in studio?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, please go ahead.
I'm glad that they came on this afternoon and talking about the different things like that, because this morning I had to ask them, why is it stopped? And Mr. Borden, he said that he didn't stop it, but yet I know he stopped it because of his little fish fry next door. But those little booths is for us, the Bordentowners, and we're going to get it open. Dwayne and Scotland, they is going to work hard, and I know Mr. Ellio, he's going to also help.
All right.
And thank you, Mr. Ellio. My daughter's still out of work. She needs a job.
All right.
I'll continue to do what I can do.
I understand that, but we love you all. UDP all the way.
Thank you so much for calling there, caller. So she was talking about a situation with the huts. I'm not familiar with that situation. You want to address that for me, Mr. Seymour?
Yeah, well, I was listening to the radio this morning too. I normally don't, but I was called and someone told me it was on. So definitely some of the things on the radio there were not factual this morning. And the reason why the huts were stopped was because of a complaint by a resident adjacent to the property in Bordentown. And the reason why it hasn't started back is not because there's no funds. The funds are there. It's because we had to take these additional precautions now and had to go through all these planning approvals and so forth because it went to the planning board, and had those meetings and stuff. So it stopped because of objections to the actual project. I don't understand how somebody would expect to have such a grandfather right in the free spirit of this economy, in terms of people can open up a shop wherever they want. Why is it that someone's going to restrict someone from having any other commerce in the district but you? I'm beside myself in terms of on trying to understand why someone would object to such a project that is so worthy. And this will only complement the other businesses that are adjacent to this property.
Right.
So it definitely was stopped by an objection that was written in.
Okay.
And it went to the planning board, and then after that, everything just went haywire.
Okay.
And we had to get all these new approvals
right.
for the project. So
okay, but it is moving forward.
It's moving forward, and hopefully within this week, we'll get the red card to continue again, and we'll have a big grand opening, and hopefully we'll get some vendors in there trying to get it committed together, because we'll have restrictions on what can be done
standards
and so forth.
and
Certain
guidelines.
standards be upheld, and definitely we don't want anybody to sell things there that we wouldn't think that would be of heritage nature.
Sure, sure.
And trying to provide a different product to the district, and something that'll be interesting for the tourists to want to come and visit.
Okay. All right. The caller before also talked about, not the lady, but the gentleman before that were putting his hats off to you gentlemen. Also talked about the parks that are being done in the Newlands area. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stick a pin there because we do have another caller. So, caller, thank you for calling Talk with the Nation. We're going to get back to that in just a second. You have a comment or a question for our guests in studio? Hello?
I think I heard someone say wrong number.
All right, I think we've lost that caller. So we were talking about the parks in Bordentown. I'd just like to mention something about that before we go over to Mr. Seymour. There are a few parks that have been put in the Bordentown district, namely Spots Newlands, and in the North Sound area, there's 3 or 4 parks. Myself, one of those parks is right alongside my property. I've lobbied for it for about 2 years, and I must say that Mr. Scotland and Mr. Seymour really, with their team of committee members in Bordentown, really pushed to have the parks done. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Not only does it make my property look better because I'm right next door to it, but it's certainly going to raise property value. And with some 80-something kids living in my neighborhood, and the households that are down in there, it's certainly going to be a great place for families to get together and to meet. And I'd just like to say personally, thank you so much for pushing ahead and getting this done. And I know that there were a lot of people who were instrumental in getting it done and actually doing the project. So if you could speak to that, Mr. Seymour, that would be great.
Donna, thank you. And definitely one of the things we campaigned on for Bordentown in itself was to try to enhance the quality of living for residents in the Bordentown district. And we have surely went about, as you hear, along the months to come and so forth, and the stuff that we have done in the district to try to enhance the quality of life for the district of Bordentown. But definitely we're working on 3 parks now as we speak, and probably some 4 more after that. But you got to start some at a time. We got one going on in Hemlock Way. That is in the Frank Hall development. It's one of the newer Frank Hall developments in the area, and in Newlands. And we also have one going on in the first development that Frank Hall ever did, and that's Donna's area. And we
I'm
have
in the
one
old area. Just
Talk
kidding.
about calling you out.
I think I just did that myself. It's okay.
Well, it was a caller calling. And the North Sound Estates, Frank Hall's home, we also have another park going on there, and the residents are so excited about being able. I mean, right now the grass is growing, and we're trying to pull everything together. We got like half basketball courts. We got we got the play sets, and we got basketball hoops and stuff are up. And there's so many things that are going to be on these grounds. And the thing about it is Donna, is a park. I did some research on parks a few months ago, and from all I've seen, it enhances the quality of life and brings value to your property. It enhances the family quality. Families spend more time together. These are all the things that we need to bring back to Cayman.
Right.
And we realize that parks are something that have been missing from areas. Bordentown is the fastest growing district, and as these areas develop, we need to ensure that there's areas where people can congregate, have birthday parties, have socials, whatever else, and that brings harmony to the area.
It does. Well, having grown up in New York in my formative years, and parks, I grew up in the suburbs of New York, and parks were a big thing. I mean, we looked forward to going to the parks at all times. But if I may take advantage of this moment and just say to people out there who may be listening that are living in these neighborhoods where these parks are so generously being created for the neighborhoods and the communities, not just my neighborhood, but in all the others, that people really should take advantage of getting together, making sure that the parks stay clean, making sure that the parks are well manicured, not just going there and using them and trashing them and destroying what's been so generously given to us, but to actually help and keeping it together so that our kids and our families and even our visitors to our homes can enjoy the parks. I mean, I know for myself, I'm going to get a committee of people together in my neighborhood, but I'm just calling on all the families out there. If you're going to enjoy the parks, please, by all means, we can't depend on the government or on whoever was involved in creating the parks, like the DART Foundation, to maintain these parks for us. I mean, they've given them to us. Let's be good neighbors and come together and really maintain these facilities that have been that we all can enjoy.
Absolutely. Donna, if I could just chime in. First of all, let me support the call that you've just made. I think it's a very important one, and I completely support it. In terms of parks, I want to say that I share my colleagues' comments in terms of those parks and the very important role that it actually plays. I'm actually doing a very similar thing in Georgetown, and at that particular point in time, there was quite a bit of spate in terms of the increase in crime. And one of the things I said is that when we can actually have these parks, amongst other things, it allows the community to be able to come together, meet on a regular basis. You've read horror stories where people stay in an apartment, there's someone that was pretty much dead next door, no one knew about it. I think when people get to know their neighbors and you have a park, that sort of area that you can centralize and come together, and you can get to know Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown gets to know Mr. So-and-so. I think you start to say, well, hold on, I haven't seen Mr. Brown for a couple of days. What's up with him? So I think it brings communities together, and I was actually able and quite proud, and I'd like to give them a plug as well, with the DART group being able to give assistance in terms of fixing up some of the parks in Georgetown. For example, I got additional work. The Watlers Road area didn't really require it. Some work had been done there already, but definitely got the Washington Boulevard, or what's referred to as Swamp, that area actually fixed up. We got the same thing done for Central. So I got the same thing done for the Windsor Park area. And I've also, in terms of the FCA agreement, one of the things, there were a couple of things that I definitely pushed for, and one of those things were for additional parks as well. One of those new areas, the east-west arterial, in terms of the Frank Hall home on that area, to be able to get a park there. Randike is one of those areas that definitely needs a park, and I have funds slated to get Randike a park. There's a new affordable homes that also went down at Windsor Park with a nice little area. Spoke to the chairman there, as well as my wife, who's willing and loves the trees just as much as I do or more, who wants to see some trees and stuff planted there. But I definitely think the parks are very, very important and helps bring communities together. And I love the trees. I love that sort of thing in terms of the ecology with respect to the environment. So I want to echo the sentiments that you've made, and I want to thank the DART group for their support as well, and let the public know that there will be some more parks that will be coming online, as well as, and I almost overlooked it, Prospect. Very big neighborhood, and you look at that neighborhood and there was no parks. So I actually got money set aside as well to be able to purchase at least 1 to 2 pieces of land to be able to create either one sort of large park or maybe even 2 parks, because it is a very large neighborhood. So Prospect will either get 1 or 2 parks as well. The monies are there as part of this FCA agreement, and we definitely look forward to that happening sooner than later.
All right, we in studio know what FCIA is, but for clarity for our viewers, our listeners out there, can you you.
Yeah, so just to give the acronym, the FCIA agreement is the For Cayman Investment Alliance, and that was the agreement that was being negotiated between the Cayman Islands government and the DART group. Okay. So again, I know persons hear a lot of the criticisms, but there are a lot of wonderful things taking place there. Some of the other things, Donna, just to give it very quickly, that I was able to sit down in there in terms of the discussion is the monies and stuff that you actually see some of the funds being spent right now with respect to housing, because I wanted to be able to try to see that we could get some housing repair, and you see a lot of those funds now being distributed through the Premier's office, and I was there key and instrumental in that, and it was actually, I believe at the time, as much as $2.5 million with respect to those house repairs. And there were other things, for example, even in terms of the FCIA agreement, when it came to persons that the actual DART group started building their houses, they had technically agreed in much part to be able to provide some vocational training for Caymanians in terms of being able to learn to do tiling and plumbing, electrical, both in terms of the practical, the hands-on, as well as in addition to that, being able to get the academic side, so that once they were actually finished with these projects, they were armed with those two complementary skills that they can actually go out and attain and retain those jobs out there in the future. So it's some tremendous opportunities, and I just want to encourage persons that when they hear the banging and bashing about the CIG-FCIA agreement, there's some positive things to it, and I encourage persons to look forward to it.
All right, gentlemen, the conversation is great, but we do have to take a break here on Talk with the Nation. Please join us again in just a few minutes. We'll be right back.
All things Cayman, present and future. This is Talk with the Nation with Donna Bush on Vibe FM, presented by the Premier, the Honorable McKeeva Bush.
Welcome back to the show. Our phone lines are open. You can give us a call with your comments or your questions. Actually, we have a caller on the line. Hello, and thank you for calling Talk with the Nation. Do you have a question or a comment for our guest in studio this evening?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good day, Mr. Solomon.
Good day, good day.
Let me use the opportunity to congratulate you on the initiative which I know you led, which allows, or which resulted in pension, members of pension funds being able to access funds to do real estate transactions, and I put that generally.
Right.
And I am actually in the lending business. I do mortgages.
Okay.
What I've experienced in terms of discussions with persons who could probably benefit from that initiative is that there are so many who have pension funds, have enough funds on the pension plan, have more than $35,000, but who want their mortgages. I know that under the amendment, the funds can be used to pay off a mortgage, not reduce it. And therein I see an opportunity that was not grasped. Because given the harshness of the times, I think there are several persons who now own property, who owe money, so there's a mortgage outstanding, who could benefit substantially if they were able to draw down pension funds to reduce their mortgage, and thereby, with the cooperation of their lenders or the bankers, have the mortgage payment reduced in line with what they're better able to afford now. It will have the same effect of helping people to not only acquire property but retain ownership of property. And I just wonder whether there's any opportunity on review, because you would have obviously, been able to get the statistics to see how, to the extent to which the initiative has helped in order to allow people to draw down from the pensions, and perhaps look to see whether a review to incorporate the ability for the funds to be used to pay down a mortgage rather than pay off.
Well, caller,
thank you for calling and asking that question, because it's funny we brought that up earlier.
No, absolutely. And I was going to say, I'm not sure how long the caller has been listening, but I think he raises some very meritorious comments, and let me just address them now and perhaps again, because Donna, you and I also had an offline conversation, which I think we can bring to the surface as well. One, I did make quite a few recommendations to the caucus, and when I refer to caucus, I'm referring to all of the elected members of government when we convene, which is, well, I don't have to mention the day, but when we convene once a week at least, then I think that this is when you throw those recommendations. And at the time, I think the caucus was the general, and I say the caucus because some members would have been supportive, but obviously the majority of them weren't in terms of some of the recommendations. I think many persons felt that at this particular juncture, they may have been too liberal, both in terms of the ability to sort of reduce your mortgage. One of the other ones that I want was not necessarily limited to just non-homeowners, but even a homeowner who may actually have a home that may simply want to build on a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment to be able to rent out, because that in itself might give them a sort of retirement plan. But as I said, you can't accomplish anything in the parliament by yourself. So when you hear people talking about this independent argument, there's no independent in the Legislative Assembly. You can sit alone, you can die alone, etc. You can do a lot of things alone, but you're not going to operate in Parliament by yourself. And so I needed the support of my colleagues, and on some of those issues at the time, I was not able to get that support. There were concerns about what would happen. Would there be a run in the bank, to sort of use that expression? But I think now that we have had almost 200 persons that have employed the benefits available to them from this pension withdrawal amendment, and they are seeing the benefits, my party is seeing the benefits, I am very confident that they will be able to work with me now to take the next step, to be able to allow persons, for example, who own a home to be able to get that additional piece built on, and as well as perhaps a rental accommodation. And in addition to that, perhaps those sort of things that the caller is mentioning when he talks about reducing the mortgage. But I think the approach taken initially was a very conservative approach, and that is to say, once they use these funds, we know for sure they have a piece of land, they built a house, they have just bought a house, or that we know that they have full possession of that house because they've paid off their final mortgage. I appreciate that conservatism, and I think now that we have the results, I look forward to us moving ahead.
All right, well, I thank the caller as well, and I think, like he mentioned, that now is such a time in our economy and in the global economy, not just here in Cayman, that would have been a great time for people to be able to benefit from that particular movement there. But again,
and just for the avoidance of doubt, that has my full support. Those were sort of the recommendations that I made behind the scenes that the public would not have known about. But you can't possibly get support on all those things, and I will take the baton further, hopefully, if the people give me a chance to do so.
All right, Mr. Solomon. We also wanted to talk about the RCIPS. You're talking about transparency and the Complaints Commissioner being able to invest certain cases and so forth. And